Okay, today we took a practice EOCT, and I thought it'd be a good idea for you to go back over it tonight to make sure, so you'll be ready to do well on the EOCT, which is May 22nd, 2.5 weeks. So it says, which of the following is equivalent to the expression below? And we want to be able to work this out. Calculator would come in handy. We know from the calculator that 4 squared is 16. So that automatically eliminates answer choice A and answer choice D. Bring down your plus sign. 3 to the 2/3 power. Remember that your denominator, 3, has to be your root. So it's going to be the third root of 3 to the 2nd power. So the answer choice would have to be C, because 3 to the 2nd power is equivalent to 9. Factor the following expression completely. Alright, so we want to factor this, x to the 8th power minus y to the 8th power. And in order to do that, we're going to say 2 sets of parentheses, x to the 4th times x to the 4th is x to the 8th. And y to the 4th times y to the 4th is y to the 8th. So to get a negative y to the 4th, one of them has to be positive and one has to be negative. We can't factor x to the 4th plus y to the 4th anymore, but we can factor x to the 4th minus y to the 4th. So again, 2 sets of parentheses under here. So that's going to give me x squared times x squared is x to the 4th. And y squared times y squared is y to the 4th. Again, to get negative, one has to be positive and one has to be negative. Bring down your x to the 4th plus y to the 4th. Alright, again, we can't factor x squared plus y squared, but we can factor x squared minus y squared. So if I want to factor this one, I'm going to again bring down 2 sets of parentheses. X times x is x squared, and y times y is y squared. Again, to get the negative, one has to be positive and one has to be negative. So bring down this factor, x squared plus y squared, and bring down your first factor, x to the 4th plus y to the 4th. So that's going to give me again answer choice C. Number 3, which would be the next step when constructing congruent angles? Alright, remember this is what we've done so far. So if we want to find out what step we need to take next, we would need to measure how big the angle is. So we would copy our angle to be the same exact measurement. So this is already constructed, so it wouldn't be this one. This really doesn't tell me anything. This isn't an angle, so it would have to be this choice. So X is answer choice A. A restaurant has 10 chicken dishes on the menu. It has 7 chicken dishes with pasta and 15 pasta dishes. What is the probability that the dish has pasta given that it is chicken? So there's your given. That means you have conditional probability. And this is found on your formula sheet. If you look at your formula sheet, which is on the online classroom. Alright, so it says, what is the probability of A and B? Well, let's let A be that it's the dish with pasta, and B be that it has chicken. Alright, so if I want to work this one out, what is the probability? How many dishes have chicken and pasta? There would be 7 dishes that have chicken and pasta. And B is how many chicken dishes? So it says here there's 10 chicken dishes. So that would be 10. So the probability of the dish having pasta given that it has chicken would be 7/10. Answer choice A. Number 5, given that DEGF is a parallelogram and EF is the diagonal of DEGF, prove angle D is congruent to angle G. What they want us to do is which reason completes the proof. So it's helpful if you mark what is already stated in the proof. I know that DEGF is a parallelogram. I know that DE is parallel to FG, so it may help if you put the arrows on there to indicate parallel. I know that DF is parallel to EG, so let's put arrows here. The arrows show they're parallel. I know that EF is congruent to EF, so let's mark that side congruent. I know angle DEF is going to be congruent to angle GEF. And I know angle DFE is going to be congruent to FEG. So why are the triangles congruent? Well, it would help if you would label the marks that you put on there. This mark right here is an angle mark. This mark here is a side. And this mark right here is an angle. Therefore, the side's in the middle, so it would be answer choice A, angle, side, angle. Number 6, if J equals 2, so let's put a 2 there, and K equals 2.5, let's put a 2 there. What is the length of L? Well, I know I want to find L, and it's in a right triangle. We know two sides, so we can use the Pythagorean theorem, which is A squared plus B squared equals C squared. Remember that C always has to be your hypotenuse. So I would say A squared plus 2 squared equals 2.5 squared. So let's do our exponents. A squared plus 4 squared equals 2.5 squared. Which is 6.25. I don't need this square here. To solve for A, I need to eliminate the 4, so let's subtract 4 from both sides. So that gives me A squared equals 2.25. And then the last thing I need to do is take the square root so I can get A. So if I take the square root of that, I get 1.5. C. Number 7. At a conference, there are 5 men for every 2 women. If there are 344 women at the conference, how many men are at the conference? So this is a similarity, so I would set up my proportions. I know there are 5 men for every 2 women. And 344 women, so let's do women in the denominator since that's when we have the women. How many men? And anytime you have a proportion, you can cross multiply to solve it. So I would say 5 times 344 is 1720. And that's going to give me 2x. So all I have to do now is divide by 2. And that's going to give me 860 men. Number 8, what is the radius of the circle given by the equation below? Now remember, we used the formula sheet here. This is what we talked about in class today. Here's our formula sheet for a circle. Notice on the formula sheet that the circle formula has parentheses, but our equation in the problem doesn't. All right? So we want to group our x terms and group our y terms. All right? So that's going to give me x minus, and then put our square there, plus y plus, and put our square there, equals negative 25. Now in order to get the numbers that go here and here, I need to take half of my x terms. So if I take half of 10x, that gives me 5. And if I have taken it half of 10y, that gives me 5. Now what I'm actually doing is adding these numbers to the left-hand side, so I need to add them to the right-hand side. So if I add 5 squared, that's 25. And I add another 5 squared is 25. So if I combine all these numbers here, negative 25 and positive 25 and positive 25 equal positive 25. And that equals your radius squared. So if the radius squared equals positive 25, To find the radius, you just need to take the square root of both sides. So that tells me that the radius has to equal 5. Number 9, if the side length S is equal to 6, it helps me if I put 6 on the picture, and the height is 9 centimeters, what is the volume of the pyramid? Well, it's going to help if you go to the formula sheet, which I've just taken part of it here. Our formula says the volume equals 1/3 times capital B. Now remember, that's the area of the base, and the area of the base would be length times width in this parallelogram. So that would be 6 times 6. That's your area of the base, times the height, which is 9. So if I put that in my calculator, I would say 1/3 times 6 times 6 times 9. And that's going to give me 108. And the last one, the measure of angle PQR is 60. Again, it helps me to label the picture. And the length of radius QR is 8. What is the area of this sector? Now remember, your keyword is area. So I find my area formula on the formula sheet. This is from the formula sheet. And it says the area is pi r squared. So I would say pi times 8 squared is that's equal to 64 pi. But that's the area of the circle. What is the shaded part of the sector? Well, that's 60 degrees out of a total of how many degrees? 360. So now I have to take my calculator and multiply the area of the circle times the shaded part. So I would multiply 64 pi times 60 over 360. And it helps to hit your SD button, and that gives you 33.49. So think about these, and we'll do 10 more tomorrow. Let's just get really ready. I hope everybody does good on the EOCT.